In this video, I'm going to explain how to write a class in Java. A class tells the properties of a type of objects. An object has state and behaviors as we mentioned in the last lecture. State is defined by attributes. Behavior are defined by the operations we can perform on the object. For example, suppose we want to define a class to represent six-sided dice. We first identify the state and behaviors of dice. The state of a die would be the face value from 1 to 6. The behavior or operation that we can perform on a die would be roll. We can roll a die. In Java, we use data variables to keep the state of an object. To represent the face value of a die, we declare an integer variable, private int face value semicolon. We will explain what private means later. Int is the data type of the variable. It is a primitive integer. Face value is the name of the variable. In Java, the behaviors are modeled using methods. In our die example, we can define a method inRoll. The method returns the new face value of the die after rolling it. The method should also update the face value of the die. A possible implementation is as shown. You can see that there are two statements in the body of the method. The first statement assigns a random number from 1 to 6 to face value. We will explain further what the method math.random do later. The second statement returns the current face value. We now have the state and behaviors of a die defined in Java. We still need to give this class a name. Let's call this class die, D-I-E. Note that I use capital D for this name. This is a convention. We capitalize the first alphabet of a class name. Both the data declaration and method definition have to be put inside the class. The syntax of defining a class is as shown, like that. We put the first line as the class name, and inside the body, we put data declaration and method declaration. After putting in the data declaration and method declaration in class die, it is like that. Apart from the methods defining the behaviors of a type of objects, there are other methods we usually want for a class. They are the constructors and the toString method. They are not necessary, but would be very useful in most situations. We first talk about constructors. A constructor is a special method for setting up an object when it is first created. It usually tells how to initialize the data variables. The name of this method is the same as the class name. You can pass parameters to a constructor, but it is not necessary. A constructor has no return type specified. In our die example, suppose we want the face value of a die to be 1 when it is created. We can define a constructor as follows. Remember, the name of the constructor is the same as the class name, so we put DIE. There's no return type. We don't need to pass a parameter to the constructor, so there's no parameter included inside the parentheses. We can define more than one constructor, but the parameter lists in these constructors must be different. For example, in our applications, suppose we want to create a die that with a specific face value specified, then we can define another constructor, like this one. You can see that this one has a parameter. And suppose in this example, we put int b as a parameter. And this is the initial value we want our die to be, and so we assign face value to be v, passed in the parameter. In a program, Java knows which constructor to be used by looking at whether you're passing a parameter or not. In the next lecture, we will see how we create objects using different constructors. Another method that we would find handy in many classes is the toString method. This method tells what to print when we print an object using the system.p9 statement. Unlike a primitive data type variable that carries a single value, an object may have several data variables defined as a state. For example, if you define a class to represent students, you probably have many data variables. one for student number, one for the name, and some others for the address, date of birth, etc. When you print the object out, you need to tell the program how to print these data variables out. In our example, suppose we simply want the face value to be printed out, we can define the toString method like this. Note that the return type of the toString method must be string. You do not have to include any parameter in the method. In this toString method, we have one statement, and we return something called integer.toString face value. So this integer toString method returns a string representing the parameter. By using this method, we can make sure the type of the value returned is the same as the return type required in this toString method. We now can develop the class of dice as follows. We include the data declarations and also all the methods inside class die. Okay. We have one data variable, face value, two constructors, one without parameter, and the other with a single integer parameter, and two other methods. One is roll for rolling a die, the other is a toString method for printing out the object.